In this video, we are going to see what is an interrupt. Before going into the video, subscribe to my channel In and Around Computer. First of all, what is an interrupt? It is a signal from a device attached to a computer or from a program within the computer that requires the operating system to stop and figure out what to do next. So it is a signal first of all, and this interrupt temporarily stops a current process. Most I/O devices have a bus control line called the interrupt service routine for this purpose. This is a part of OS for servicing the interrupts. An interrupt signal might be planned, that is, it is specifically requested by a program, or it may be unplanned, that is caused by an event that may not be related to the program that's currently running on the system. Now, all the computing systems are interrupt driven. That is, they follow a list of computer instructions in a program and run the instructions until they get to the end or until they sense an interrupt signal. Until they sense an interrupt signal, they will follow the execution of all the instructions. If they sense an interrupt, the computer either resumes running the current program or begins running another program. In either case, it must stop operations while deciding on the next action. So these are the sequence of stages when an interrupt occurs. When an interrupt occurs, the processor and the OS are responsible for suspending the user program and then resuming it at the same point. So seeing this diagram, we can see when the processor suspends the user program when an interrupt occurs, and the control goes to the interrupt handler of the OS, and after servicing the interrupt by the interrupt handler, the control again comes back to the user program and executes and resumes its operation, that is the execution from where it stopped, and it resumes from the particular point. If the system is interrupt driven, then to accommodate interrupts, an interrupt cycle is added to the instruction cycle. Instruction cycle is a sequence of steps like fetch, decode, and execute that the processor follows to execute the instructions. Check my video for the detailed description of instruction cycle if you have not checked. In the interrupt cycle, the processor checks to see if any interrupt have occurred, indicated by the presence of an interrupt signal. If no interrupts are pending, the processor proceeds to the fetch cycle and fetches the next instruction of the current program. The following are the steps in which the ISR handles the interrupts. If an interrupt is pending, the processor does the following. It suspends the execution of the current program being executed and saves its context to the stack. It also saves the current contents of the program counter, which stores the address of the next instruction to be executed. That we already know. It sets the program counter to the starting address of the interrupt handler routine, which services the interrupt, and then the processor now proceeds to the fetch cycle and fetches the first instruction in the interrupt handler program, which will service the interrupt. Then when the interrupt handler routine is completed, the processor can resume the execution of the user program at the point of interruption. This is all about the instruction execution with the interrupts when the system is interrupt driven. Subscribe to my channel if you feel contented.